We're back, baby.
Oh, shit. Welcome home.
Welcome home, especially to you, Pace.
I
Welcome
know.
home.
Welcome home to the Byron and Pace show. Welcome home, me.
So anyone on TikTok would know that Pace has been away. If you've seen our videos, we had a replacement in.
Yeah.
Fan of the show.
Fan of the show. Chief writer of the show,
Chief writer of the show.
Nick Grove.
Official chief writer, Nick Grove.
I listened to that episode while I was sitting by the pool in Tuscany.
Yes, and I was slogging it in the rain of Sydney.
I know, because usually, I don't actually listen back to our episodes because we,
I probably should, to be honest.
Yeah, but I was listening to it. I was like, this is actually good. Nick did such a good job. I had a lot of fun listening to it. So, shout out to Nick. Appreciate you stepping in.
Yeah. I do have to say we were pretty sloppy. We just scattered. We've been working on Byron and Pace as a brand. We only had one. So if you're a listener, that means there's been a 3-4 week break.
Yeah, the problem is we were supposed to bank up a load of episodes, but then you got sick last week.
So sick
I was here and we just couldn't do anything. But we're back. With renewed vigor, lust for life.
Got Glenlivet.
We've got the Glenlivet, 10 years old, a favorite of ours.
This is a birthday present of me. Actually, all our whiskey right now is birthday presents.
Yeah, I know.
It was actually the best. I got 3 bottles.
So I feel really good about this week.
I think this is gonna be my GOAT episode.
Yeah?
I have so many good stories. Not only do we have good stories, we have a theme for the Factor Cap stories.
We do, don't we?
And the theme is
survival stories.
Survival stories.
Brought to you by
Prime Video.
Well, this was so fun to research as well.
Cheers.
Because cheers.
Before we jump into it, cheers.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
This was super fun to research. There's some rippers. There's some absolute rippers out there.
Well, as I said to you, I've actually found it way easier searching for specific stories. It's so hard to find stories now because you just search insane stories or whatever. But if you get niche, survival stories, you get a whole fleet of incredible stuff.
So if you're into survival stories, even if you're not,
we got some true or false survival stories.
I'm super excited about this episode. So without further ado, do you want to get started?
I'll get started.
All right.
We'll start off with this one. So this is the horrifying story of a rugby team that ate their own team members.
Okay.
Let me explain.
Okay.
So upon its departure on October 12th, 1972,
Yeah.
the Fairchild flight carried 45 people. The number included the Old Christians rugby team.
Okay.
As the pilot prepared to descend to their destination in Santiago, suddenly the plane lost all contact and plummeted into the mountain range.
Okay.
The Chilean and Argentinian government searched for the lost plane for 8 days with no results. During this time, the survivors of the crash took inventory and tended to the wounded as much as possible.
So the plane survived?
Crashed. Oh, they crashed. 15 of the 40 people survived.
Wow. Okay.
Not all rugby team, but a mix of them.
Yeah.
After 2 full weeks in the mountains, the survivors were weak. Even though they rationed the food and divided it equally, it had run out and they were now full into the winter season.
Yeah.
And conditions grew increasingly harsh. An avalanche came over them while they were sleeping and 8 more people were killed.
Oh my God.
So morale was obviously low and the passengers began to think less of being rescued and more about surviving until spring when a rescue would be feasible.
Yeah.
In order to facilitate this, they began to eat the muscle and flesh of their deceased team members, whose bodies had been preserved in the sub-zero conditions since the day of the crash.
Okay.
After 70 days, eventually 2 of the strongest men left, built up their strength, not even just energy left, built up their strength and packed their bags with the limbs of their team members.
Oh my God.
And former mates to hike 60 miles to the nearest village. This took them 10 days due to the high altitude and how weak they were. They managed to make contact and rescue the remaining survivors.
Oh my God. Imagine just chewing on a frozen limb.
Yeah. So they just pretty much ripped off some limbs, packed them in their bags for strength.
They cooked it or they just eat it raw? Oh my God.
Not those ones. They had some methods for cooking it.
Yeah.
They used some really ad hoc methods.
Yeah.
But you're still eating.
That's horrific.
That is
so horrific.
Gnarly. Also, the other 30 people on the plane were just friends and families of the rugby team.
I reckon this is bullshit.
You reckon it's bullshit?
He packed a bag full of limbs and then set off over the hills.
He packed a bag of food. Basically, I just made it sound a bit crazier.
I reckon it's bullshit.
It's completely true.
Oh, fuck.
It's completely true.
So brutal.
It is completely true.
Oh, that's rotten.
Yeah.
So they survived by eating the dead people, basically.
It was 70 days they had to survive and they only had it was a small plane.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
so imagine that. What else are you supposed to do?
That's gnarly.
Yeah. But you gotta remember, it sounds crazy here, but day 30 and your friends are dead.
Right. It makes sense. I feel like I would have heard of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy survival. You would have heard of some of the other ones, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. Shit.
But yeah, that's true. There you go.
I would eat you if I had to.
Yeah, I would want you to eat me.
Yeah.
What's the point? I don't care about my body afterwards. You know.
Yeah, I suppose it makes sense. Okay. on the snow and frozen
Nice.
Tangent. Did you hear about the Arctic explorer who was buried alive and used his frozen poop to escape?
No way.
So, Laurent Peter Alfred Freutchen was a 6'7" tall Danish explorer, old school, like early 1900s.
Yeah.
He rode a dog sled 1,000 kilometers across Greenland and killed a wolf with his bare hands and escaped a Nazi death warrant. So he's like
A beast.
an absolute beast. In 1926, during one of his Arctic expeditions, Freutchen was caught in a blizzard, so took cover underneath a dog sled, but became completely encased in ice and was trapped. Bro, he was in there for so long, he started to run out of food, and it got to the point where the cocoon was so close, so tight that he could barely move.
Oh my God.
And so the way that he got out of it was he fashioned a chisel from frozen shit.
Yeah.
And he carved a way through the wall of ice.
Genius.
Out of his shelter. And then once outside, he realized his legs didn't work anymore. So he had to crawl for 3 hours back to base camp. And by the time he made it back to base camp, get this, right? The gangrene was so bad in his toes, he amputated his own toes with a pair of pliers with no anesthesia.
Oh my God. Why though? What's the benefit of amputating your toes at that point? It's not like it spreads to your body.
Gangrene.
Oh, gangrene.
Yeah, it's not frostbite.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Look, the poo thing, that sounds totally reasonable. Like if you get nothing else to do and it's just frozen, it probably wouldn't even be gross at that point. Like it's
Right.
just frozen solid.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
Although
smell.
it would like warm up in your hands, probably.
Yeah, it's true. I got to go true.
You reckon it's true? This one is true.
Nice.
And it was a submission by a friend of mine, James Thurston.
Oh, a submission.
Yeah.
A submission. There you
Great
go.
submission.
Great submission. That's
Dude, this guy was such a badass. Just like optional extras. When the Germans took over Denmark, he was part of the Danish resistance, of course. He hid refugees, subverted Nazi operations, pissed off Hitler so badly that they arrested him and sentenced him to death, but he escaped. What
6'7" as well. Do you know how big
Yeah,
that is?
I know.
That is huge. I don't know anyone who's 6'7".
Yeah.
That is huge. Wow.
Yeah. What a baller.
Awesome. All right, this is probably my favorite one. Mm-hmm. This is one of the most insane survival stories in human history with a philosophical twist.
Okay. All right.
Let me explain.
All right.
So 2 British climbers, 24-year-old Joe Simpson and 21-year-old Simon Yates, were climbing a mountain in 1985 in Peru.
Okay.
And they climbed it up successfully, but on the decline, Simon slipped and shattered his leg in like multiple places. His knee
bad
had
time.
like dislocated and everything. And when he says in his book, like when his mate came up and saw him, his face dropped. He was like, "You're dead."
Yeah.
And what can I do? So they started declining, and only attached by a 45-meter rope, Simon actually slipped and started hanging off the mountain.
The guy with the broken leg?
The broken leg was hanging off the mountain, and the other guy was basically here just like, what do I do? And he sat there for an hour, just kind of holding on to
it.
him
Oh my God.
until eventually he took the knife and had to make a decision, and he had to cut him. And then so Simon fell, and he said as he fell, he landed like a glacier into this like kind of cavern cave. And he was like, oh God, I hope Simon's all right because he's fallen. And he starts pulling up the rope, and then he pulls up the rope and notices that it's been cut. And he goes, that's it.
Oh, so he didn't know that he'd been cut. He thought they'd both
They're
fallen.
45 meters apart.
Right.
He was just hanging.
Oh, then you pull up the rope and you're like, he
He's been
betrayed
cut.
me.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically he shattered his leg. He was in this point and he thought he was dead. And he figured, all right, Simon's going to try come for me.
Yeah.
9 hours later, he's like, actually, that's it. Why would you come for a dead body?
Right.
And so his logic was, if I'm going to die, I want to die in the sun. So he starts crawling. For 3.5 days, he crawls through the ice. And he just keeps crawling. He just keeps crawling. After 3.5 days, he finally manages to make it like close to base camp.
3.5 days.
He's just crawling, and he would like stop and like, I just gonna make 20 more meters, and he's crawling. By this point, he's lost 35% of his body weight, and he's hallucinating, and his body's like shutting down. He then gets close to the base camp, and he's got to crawl through human shit to get there, and he's like covered in shit. And eventually, his
Why
mates
is he
find
crawling
him
through human shit?
to get to this point. I don't know, but that's what it said. And then eventually, his mates find him, and they're like, "Oh my God!" They find him, and they pull him up, but they're only at base camp. It's not like there's a hospital nearby. They have to travel on a donkey for 2 days. And his leg's still broken, and then 24 hours in the back of a ute. It ended up taking 11 days from when he broke his leg to when he got to hospital. And he still survived.
Wow.
And they've made a documentary and a live action play.
A play?
Yeah, in
about-
2018.
Wow.
There you go.
Man, what is it with ice, mountains, and yeah,
Well, I mean,
it's a bad time.
that's where it happens. Half the stories I was going through were all like mountains.
I mean, that's too detailed to be true. It's got to be true. It's got to be true.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. You haven't heard that story?
No.
You haven't heard the story of the guy who cut his mate free?
No.
Dude.
I don't know anything about survival stories.
It's
obviously.
iconic. It's iconic. But that's with a philosophical twist.
Would you cut your mate free to...
If you're in that situation.
Does he hold it against
No, he says, the only thing I'm disappointed about Simon is it took him an hour to do it.
Oh, that's a badass thing to say.
And he said, I wasn't disappointed. I was glad that he survived because it was either the rope would be cut or his dead body would be.
So they both survived in the end.
They both survived in the end.
Shit, yeah.
Fuck,
you feel so rotten though.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
okay. Have you heard about the lady who survived being above the plane that hit the Twin Towers in 9/11?
The photo? No. I haven't heard this. Sorry.
So let me tell you, Tanya Head was working for Merrill Lynch on the 78th floor of the Southern Tower when the plane hit. She suffered severe burns on her arms while crawling through the smoke and the flames. While she was escaping, a dying man passed his wedding ring to her and asked if she would take it to his wife.
Oh my God.
Ironically, Tanya's husband died in the other tower the same day. She managed to get to one of the elevator shafts at the back of the building and was helped to safety by a famous equities trader and volunteer firefighter, Wells Crowther, who saved 18 people that day, but he died himself.
No.
And then after surviving, she became the president of the World Trade Center Survivors Network.
Wow.
But she was above the impact zone.
Right. So like where the plane hit.
She was above.
She wasn't below it getting crumpled. But even, how do you survive being above? Just get lucky.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was like one of the only people that survived from being above.
I'm going to say it's true.
So this is completely bullshit.
Oh, you know what? As soon as I said true, I was like, wait, this is such a good bullshit story.
But the person who made up the story is real. She made it up about herself, but she was never even in America at the time. And it was this famous story. Her name's Alicia Head, not Tanya Head. And she made up the whole thing. She became the president of the survivors, of the survivors center or whatever. But she made up the whole thing, and it took years for people to figure out that it was actually completely bullshit. She'd made up the whole thing. She wasn't even in America at the time.
What a rat.
The first time she got to America was 2 years later.
Oh my God.
She'd made up this entire story about how she was there and how she survived and how her husband died. Eventually, they figured out that she was bullshitting because she said that she'd also got a degree from Harvard and Stanford. And then someone was like looking into it and they couldn't find any records of her being there. And then they called up Merrill Lynch and they were like, did she ever work for you guys? And they were like, no, we can't find any evidence of it. And eventually it all came crumbling down. And then she tried to fake her own suicide.
Oh my God.
After
this
the
woman's
shame.
got a problem.
Yeah, seriously. But like it was this, she was part of like documentaries and she was on talk shows and stuff like that about like this famous woman, but she made the whole thing up.
Oh yeah. That's messed up.
Isn't that rotten?
So a false true story.
A false true story. Yeah.
I wanted to share this one because it's just an iconic. You've probably heard of this, but this is the greatest survival story and the ending will blow you away.
Okay.
Let me explain.
Okay.
So, have you heard of Shackleton?
Yeah.
You've heard of the story?
Ernest Shackleton.
So Antarctic explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton had started out in 1914 with a mission to be the first to cross Antarctica by foot.
Yeah.
By November 1915, his ship, the Endurance, had been crushed by sea ice and his crew of 27 people were stranded on the ice. After they made it to the tiny uninhabited island in spring 1916, Shackleton made the decision to go for help. He and 5-person crew sailed the largest lifeboat, the James Caird now called, 800 miles over the planet's roughest seas to an island in South Georgia. The crew faced icebergs, enormous swells, and gale-force winds. Waves of icy seawater pummeled their body. They had no waterproof clothing, of course. The boat pitched and rolled like a cork, aching and freezing. The men bailed with buckets as they took out water. They barely slept, ate, or drank for 2 punishing weeks. Finally, the boat approached South Georgia's coastline by hurricane, made landing nearly impossible. After several tries, Shackleton landed them safely in a small inlet. Then he and 2 other men scaled a glacier-covered mountain range that ran down the center of the island to reach Norwegian whaling station. Several weeks after unsuccessful attempts later, Shackleton chartered a ship to rescue the men left behind on Elephant Island. So he's gone back for them.
Right.
The crazy part.
Yeah. How many people were left back there? Like
the crazy part, all 27 men survived.
Oh my God.
And this was 2 years. This whole thing went for 2 years.
No way.
So the men they left behind waited there for a year while the others went to look for help. And all in all, since they left England, it took 2 years. And everyone survived. He's known as one of the most prolific leaders in human history. People have studied how he was able to do this, how he was able to make like everyone survive. And they've written books and everything. It's one of the most incredible stories in human history.
Yeah, shit.
And that was a very brief thing.
I mean, I know I've heard the name, so it has to be a true story.
It's true story. It's true. And it's generally people use that as leadership.
A year. Imagine waiting a year, just not knowing where they.
No. How long do you hold on to?
Yeah, I guess.
How long do you hold on to?
I mean, as long as you can, maybe. I don't know.
So the crew left behind, just sitting there waiting. Well, they battled storms, took months and months and months to finally go back for them.
Yeah, brutal.
All right, speaking of snow, I've got one more.
Oh, shit. Okay.
All right. This is how Luke Skywalker saved a man's life.
Okay.
Let me explain. So you're aware of the famous scene in Star Wars when Luke and Han have to cut open the tauntaun?
Oh, yeah.
And they cut open the lightsaber and they sleep inside the bodies to survive a snowstorm. So, did you know that a man used the same strategy in real life to survive?
Okay, I'm listening.
However, it wasn't a tauntaun and it wasn't a snowstorm. It was a camel. David Leruro, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was forced to kill his own camel after getting caught in a vicious sandstorm. This is when it's like glass and can like cut you and you'll pretty much die if you don't get out of this. And nowhere to go, he killed his camel, cut open the camel, pulled out the intestines and the guts, and then he hopped inside it and waited in it for 2 days while the storm had to pass.
Oh my God.
He came out, his body was covered in like wrinkles.
Yeah,
and it's like,
all pruny because
all
of the
pruny
blood.
because of the blood, and like he smelled horrible and everything.
Yeah.
He threw up in there once or twice. And he just had to sit in there, otherwise he'd get like ripped apart.
Yeah.
And he actually jokingly, now he survived it, attributes the idea from Star Wars and says he wouldn't be here if he hadn't seen the movie.
Shit. Oh, this could be bullshit. This could be a bullshit one.
You reckon? I've still got 2 more. I'll tell you that.
It sounds like bullshit.
Are you going with bullshit?
It's too like funny to be real, I reckon.
So bullshit?
Yep.
It is complete bullshit. Well done.
Oh shit, yeah.
I made up the whole thing.
Fuck.
I was almost got you. Damn it.
That's a good one. That was a good one. Fuck. But do you reckon that would work though?
It does. It actually does work. I've seen Bear Grylls do it.
Right.
With a camel. That's where I got the idea from.
Right.
So Bear Grylls has done it with a camel. And he pulled out the intestines and everything, yeah. I don't know how 2 days. I guess 2 days. It's not going to kill you. You can survive kind of doing a lot for 2 days.
Sleep for 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do one more.
Yeah.
Or 2 more potentially.
Okay.
All right. Because this one's insane. So this is...
They're all fucking insane.
This is insane. This is a paraglider whose frozen body kept him alive.
What?
Let me explain.
Okay.
So a German paraglider survived lightning, pounding hails, minus 40-degree temperature, and oxygen deprivation after a storm sucked her out into an altitude higher than Mount Everest. So the storm came, pulled her up, and she was flying so high, she passed out due to the lack of oxygen and flew unconscious for an hour. Just flew. Here's the other crazy part. She reached speeds of a jumbo jet just flying along.
No way.
At an altitude of 9,947 meters. The champion sportswoman survival was like, she said, winning the lottery 10 times in a row. Australia's most experienced paraglider says. Told her that she had no chance of survival. Oh, someone told her, a professional said she had no chance of survival, but a doctor told her that her blacking out saved her because it lowered her heart rate to a point that where her body was functioning at a very low amount and it saved her life. And so her body was literally frozen until eventually it thawed out as she went down and she managed to survive.
Oh my God. Just as like this frozen ice cube just like shooting through the sky.
Pretty much. She basically got sucked up into an altitude that was so high that her body passed out, lack of oxygen, her heart rate slowed down, her body froze and she just kept going because she's attached to the glider.
Yeah.
Just poof.
Oh my God. Do I believe this? It sounds like complete horseshit.
You think it's bullshit?
But let's go true. Let's go with true.
It's completely true.
Fucking hell.
There's actually 2 stories like this. I found a second one, but that one was better, I thought.
Oh my God.
That's insane.
Wow.
So good. So good.
I love that so much.
That's a great one.
Fuck.
All right. What do you got?
I wonder if you could make a movie about that. Like
Probably.
like one of those like one-shot movies.
Yeah. I think there's enough story there.
True.
I mean, it's like 127 hours.
Oh yeah, an hour of it is just her frozen.
Just
through this guy.
You have to thicken that. Have you seen 127 Hours?
No, I haven't seen it. I
You know
like
the
the James
story.
Franco one.
Yeah. It's the story of the guy who he's go climbing, slips and falls and a boulder lands between his wrists. And he's stuck there for like 127 hours until he decides to cut it off with a pocket knife.
That's so fun.
But and half that movie is like him having flashbacks of his life and everything.
Yeah,
so
they really hammer it up.
indulge.
Yeah. Do you reckon you could do that?
In that scenario, I think I'd have to.
Yeah.
It's so gnarly though. It's a pocket knife. It's not like a cut. It's like sawing away at it.
Didn't you have to break it first and then cut?
Oh man, I don't know if I could do that.
I just don't think so. Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone says that though. Who says, yeah, I could break my hand and cut it off with a pocket knife? Like, I think it's just
you never know.
in the moment.
You never know. Shit.
All right, what do you got?
Okay. This is a ripper. Have you heard about the greatest rescue mission the world has ever seen?
No.
Okay. Do you remember the football team in Thailand that got stuck in a cave for 18 days?
Yeah.
Well, they just released a movie about it on Prime Video. It's called 13 Lives, and the ending is insane. Let me tell you about it. So in 2018, 12 teenagers and their assistant coach entered the Tam Luang Nang Non cave after football practice. I'm sure I butchered that name, but shortly after entering, super heavy rainfall flooded the cave system, like nightmare scenario, blocked their way out, trapping them 4 kilometers from the cave mouth. The rescue became an international sensation with more than 10,000 people involved in the operation. It took nearly 2 weeks for British divers to be able just to find them and make contact because the rising water levels and like strong underground rivers and stuff like that, all with zero visibility, right? They pumped out more than 1 billion liters of water to clear the way.
1 billion?
Yeah. And the journey through the cave took 5 hours to get the boys out. But get this is how they got them out. They dosed them with ketamine, so they were unconscious to prevent them from panicking during the journey and risking the lives of like the diver who was rescuing them. But it only lasted for 45 minutes to an hour. So they had to keep knocking them out with ketamine to get them out. 2 Navy SEALs died during the rescue attempt. One from asphyxiation, one from a blood infection.
Oh man.
But eventually after 18 days of like complete blackness, they all survived. And they had no idea that like billions of people around the world were watching. They thought they were going to have to ride their bikes home. They had literally no idea like about any of it. And then they were
Didn't like Elon Musk involved or something?
Yeah, he was like, we can create this like robot that'll go under there, but they fucked him off because it was a dumb idea. Anyway, they all survived and were invited to the World Cup final by FIFA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
But there's a movie about it now on Prime Video, and it's insane.
Yeah.
It's got Viggo Mortensen, so Aragorn, Colin Farrell, Joel Edgerton, so like
huge cast.
Yeah.
It's got like an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's gonna be awesome.
It's an absolute ripper.
Yeah, and it's coming out August 5th on Prime Video.
Which should be the day that this comes out.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested in seeing the full version of the story, go check that out. That's like a full live reenactment. It's gonna be awesome. I'm really keen to watch it.
1 billion liters of water.
1 billion liters. That seems impossible.
Could you imagine being underground for 2 weeks, but not knowing that anyone was coming to save you?
Horrifying. I think we forget that.
Yeah.
From our perspective, it's just like,
you sit
they
there
had hope.
Yeah.
They could have had no hope.
Yeah. So
Sick one though.
there you go.
But it's true, right?
It's true.
That's awesome. Amazing. That's survival stories.
I like that. I like doing like like episodes by section. We'll try and figure out another one to do.
That might become a normal. I just find it so much easier and more exciting to find stories. It's so hard to find stories now, guys, because it's like when you've got a giant pool, like it's easier to like niche it down and be like, all right, survival stories. All right, celebrity stories or whatever.
Yeah. So like, you know, if you were a fan of that, drop us a line, drop us a note.
But now it's news for noobs. We got no intro.
We got fuck.
News for noobs. I got some good ones.
Oh my God. Okay.
So did you know that iguanas are reproducing on the Galapagos Islands for more than a century after disappearing?
The Galapagos Islands?
The Galapagos Islands. A land iguana that disappeared more than a century ago from one of the Galapagos Islands is reproducing and naturally following its reintroduction there.
That's sick.
A very niche thing that it just make you sound very intelligent. Like it's something you shouldn't know, but now you do.
So to like recap what this section is about, it's about just the tip of the news.
Yes.
So that you sound smart. Yep. But this is cool because it's good news, right?
It's good news.
Surely that's good news.
Yeah. Iguanas populated the island vast numbers when Charles Darwin visited back in 1830s. Yes. Scientists believe that the iguana disappeared from the island in the early 20th century, and the boom is a result of reintroduction efforts of 3 years. So it's been 3 years trying to introduce them.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome, iguanas.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're not all bad.
Will they thank us? Will they thank us?
But, you know, I think that's a great little pieces of information you can insert. Oh, did you hear? The iguanas have come back to the Galapagos Islands.
Yeah, I rate that. So I got another cool thing. If you're interested in sport, right? You know how players and like sports stars get abused on Twitter every time they fuck up? Did you know that there's They did an analysis of 2,300,000 tweets, and they found nearly 60,000 abusive posts, half affecting like top flight football players, right? Half of that abuse was directed towards just 12 individuals. 8 of those came from Manchester United.
Wow.
So the most abused players on Twitter in the world are from Manchester United. And by far, number 1 and 2 are Cristiano Ronaldo and Harry Maguire, the captain.
Right.
But like,
It's just more attention. It's just like,
sure, but it's like everyone just hates Manchester United players.
why? Because they've kind of been like, I feel like the most iconic team for me growing up. Like that was the team everyone kind of
and now they suck, so everyone just like hates on them because
Yeah.
they can't live up to it.
Yeah. Because they got rid of the best player in the world, or one of, depends on your opinion.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a debate for another time.
There you go.
But yeah, the most abused player in the world at the moment is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
which is,
It's sad. But
It's
I mean,
kinda sad.
also, I guess he probably does not care.
I'm sure he doesn't care at
Like-
all. Yeah,
Who cares? That's the point. Everyone who's the best at something is going to get abused.
like
no matter
Kanye
what.
West.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Hit me with something.
I might skip this one. I don't know.
Tell me some good news, Byron.
Okay, here's some good news.
All right.
2 boys in India dropped out of Stanford to run a startup, and in less than a year, it's worth $1 billion.
2 boys in India or Indian boys?
2 Indian boys. Here's what they said. We
Okay.
started this 12 months ago. Every conversation we had was, you're totally out of your mind. It's never going to work,
Yeah.
said the teenage CEO.
Yeah.
Yet the company's managed to prove these data is wrong and is now nearing unicorn status and is one of India's, so it was India,
Yeah.
fastest growing quick commerce apps. A
yeah.
unicorn is a startup valued at more than $1 billion.
Wow.
Basically, and this is going to be funny,
Yeah.
it's just delivering groceries in 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
Now look,
Oh my
between
God.
me and you, I don't think it's scale. I don't think it's maintainable. Like
Yeah.
it's easy to grow a business like that. Not easy, like phenomenal job, but to grow that so fast, but can you maintain it? Like,
I just don't. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare business to run. Because the
God.
reason that we're talking about it as if, 'cause we're laughing is because we had a company just around the corner set up from us called Send, and their whole thing was delivering groceries within 10 minutes, and it worked. We ordered, when we had COVID, we ordered groceries and it came within 6 minutes.
it's the same price. There was no like delivery fee.
And we were just like, how can this possibly be a business model?
Yeah.
Some dude on a bike, like,
Yeah.
struggling to get to us. And it's just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I read an article actually a little while back, and it was basically talking about how millennials and to a degree like Gen Z have had their entire lifestyle subsidized by the tech boom.
Yeah.
Because all these companies with completely unsustainable business models,
Yes.
like, all the share economy companies and like Twitter, and like Uber and Uber Eats and all,
Yeah.
who've never actually had to turn a profit because they've all been built on this investment, which
Yeah.
is contingent upon exponential growth.
That's why Uber's got so expensive all of a sudden.
But the businesses don't actually turn a profit.
No.
And that's kind of getting found out. And all these like VC firms who are like investing in all these tech companies aren't actually getting the return that they thought they would, because you can't just keep growing forever.
Exactly.
And like some of them, So
If I was a betting man, I'd say this isn't going to work out. It's nice. You can always grow something.
unless there's like drones delivering all the
It's
shit
not.
or
It's
whatever.
just, look, it says, Zepto is a startup that promises to deliver groceries in less than 10 minutes. Despite being just one of many businesses to join the instant commerce wave,
Yeah.
it's already caught the eyes of investors. So
I
I reckon there's more stuff going on behind the scenes, but it's just a nightmare business. I wouldn't want to run that.
Well, interesting on that, I read also that Airbnb bookings just hit record high, like ever. Just after COVID, everyone's traveling again. And also Uber has just hit a record number of drivers, even though like the company is like financially questionable, because the cost of living continues to rise and people are like trying to find ways of like earning some extra cash. So there's now a record number of Uber drivers. It feels like it's all built on a house of cards. Like,
I know. But like even Airbnb, like people are getting sick of Airbnb because it's just like people are like turning into hotels. So just like, here's a key, here's the time you have to be out. It's like, I might as well just go to a bloody hotel. You can't do this, you can't do this. It's like Airbnb was supposed to be like someone has
someone's house.
Someone has a spare room, or they've got a holiday house they're not using, they can just rent it out.
I remember when I was in New York, we stayed in an Airbnb and it was literally just a bedroom in someone's 2-bedroom flat.
I did that in England.
Yeah.
I stayed in like, actually there was 2 beds in this bedroom and I was just one of the beds. It was,
Right. I don't even know if those places exist anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's an interesting one.
Okay.
Activision revenue suffers from a terrible Call of Duty release.
Oh,
So
shit.
Call of Duty has had a bit of a nightmare release. While the company's reported revenue did exceed analyst estimates, adjusted sales were set at 15% lower than what they were a year ago. And so
people, I feel like Call of Duty is like so well entrenched in the like online culture.
yeah, but they just make the same stuff really.
The same game
they
over
often
and
don't
over
listen
again.
to what they're like. They've kind of just been doing this futuristic, and people love like the old school sometimes. I think they just struggled to have like Call of Duty is a bit of a meme. A lot of people just don't like it, or
Right.
like I don't know. I've always loved it, but it's like you know what you're getting at. I think. Did you really have high expectations?
Do they just keep releasing the game over and over again? Basically,
pretty much?
It's like,
pretty much. New campaign, new guns, new skins, new way of playing. But
Right.
the engine, I guess, the model is relatively the same.
yeah.
Unlike like FIFA. I mean, FIFA is probably the biggest.
It's
victim
always
of that.
interesting because like there are these games that are like, you know, World of Warcraft for at one point was the biggest game ever. I think
Yeah.
still is the biggest game ever. But it eventually got to the point where people would, you just still get bored of it. Even if it's the best thing ever
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, years and years and years. There's always like these things always run their course.
Yeah.
They never just keep going forever.
But it's still a huge franchise. So
Yeah, they'll milk it. The problem is it becomes something that they just milk financially.
Yeah.
It loses all the like the kind of narrative around being a creative thing and like a new game and like it's this exciting thing. And then it just becomes this like rinse and repeat formula.
well, they don't take risks because they don't have to.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
true.
other companies will take huge risks, and it might work, it might not.
Yeah.
And it's up to them.
Yeah. Did you know that BTS have to do military service?
Like the band,
The Korean K-pop group BTS.
Right,
They
right.
have to do
as
so
part
like,
of the country laws.
So like normally all men in Korea have to serve 20 months of military service between the ages of 18 and 28.
Right.
Now they got theirs deferred because of their like unique status until they were 30 years old. But one of their members is 30 this year, so they're like, and they also went on hiatus. But they're like having to have negotiations, and right now there's a parliamentary debate in the country
Whether they should or not.
whether they should shorten the service to like 3 weeks or something because they're like so significant cultural icons and all the rest of it. And then there are ministers saying like, could they do the military service, but also like meet up to play shows and stuff like that? It's like interesting. At what point do you become exempt from like,
And then it goes, you know, you can see why they want to do it because 20 months will probably, that's game over.
yeah,
They probably won't come back from that. They'll just find a new band or something to get into. There'll be a new, because you can't just disappear for 20 months, really.
I mean,
I guess maybe you can.
maybe
but,
you could.
But it's going to crush, it's going to cost a lot of money.
A lot of people will lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, do you know the footballer Son Heung-min from Tottenham? So he's like Korea's best player ever, and he was the captain of their international team. I think he still is. And they, in order to get out of military service, mandatory military service, they had to win an international football tournament. And I think it was like second time around, he was the captain of the team, and they won the Asian Football Cup.
Yeah, right.
So the whole team got out. So they only had to do 3 weeks instead of the 20 months.
Sick.
But imagine, like, their motivation for winning that game was so much greater than their opponents because 20 months, like almost 2 years doing military work.
Losing all your skills.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If you lost that game, like you don't, that's it. Your career is like 2 years out. So
diamonds are formed under
I know.
pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking that maybe for the Australian team, we implement some similar measures and we might start to see some results.
Oh, right. Put more pressure on them.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Exactly.
if you don't win, you got to join the military or
Yeah.
something. Perhaps. Because we do
Perhaps.
need some better results. This is actually really interesting. So
Yeah.
did you know that they created a $100 million Batgirl film, but it's so bad, the public's never going to see it? Batgirl. As in like Batman, Batgirl.
Okay.
And so DC Comics film Batgirl was completely shelved by Warner Brothers. That means it won't hit theaters or US streaming services with HBO Max.
Yeah.
Fans will never see it. The reported $100 million movie, they actually estimated it was around $140 million. That's just an estimate.
Yeah.
Which was doing screen testing for audiences in anticipation of a late 2022 debut, would rank among the most expensive cinematic casts off ever. Basically, audiences said it was so bad, they just had to can it. Otherwise, it was just face the wrath.
I feel like this is weird because you see movies that you're like, how did this get
So
through?
this must have been so bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like apparently Morbius was atrocious. I haven't seen it, but like people,
it was so bad it became
panned.
a meme.
So like imagine how did these, what I don't get is how someone gets to the point in their career where they're given a budget of $140 million dollars, and they're so inept that
and the Batman franchise, like one of the most iconic, and they've got comics to lean from. It's just, I think it's just probably pressure of time and
pressure and just like incompetence. But
there's a good one. Good one for people. Just, did you hear Batgirl got made and you're never going to see it? Like, great one to throw in there.
Is that see? We didn't want to go too heavy today because we looked at the news and it was like nuclear war.
I got one more though.
Russia invading everybody, or like whatever it is, and we're just like, people don't need to know that. Everyone like.
I got two more and I tried to avoid the depressing stuff. But this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Did you know there's about to be $1 billion TV war between 4 of the biggest franchises on the planet?
Okay.
So, what are the 4 franchises? Game of Thrones is coming out. Lord of the Rings is coming out.
Oh, shit.
Star Wars is dropping a new show. And The Sandman, which I don't even know what that is, but apparently it's huge. And here's the thing. The main event showdown is between Game of Thrones prequel House of Dragons and the Lord of the Rings prequel Rings of Power.
Yeah.
And if you think the media are hyping up the TV war, considering this, at this time last year, Amazon announced its world premiere, The Rings of Power, on September 2nd. It gave everyone 13 months notice. Then HBO swooped in and picked up August 21st as a date for House of Dragons, spoiling the fair fight. The 2 shows will air the finales on the same week.
No. This is crazy because like Game of Thrones is like all fantasy books and therefore like series are basically built upon the Lord of the Rings world and like the lore.
Yeah. Like everyone takes like dwarves, elves, like there's so much inspiration for
dragons, all that
Tolkien's
sort of
work.
shit.
Yeah. So it's going to be...
I'm so excited.
But then on top of that, we just watched a trailer for the new Star Wars show, which looks sick. That's coming out similar times. Like, it's just going to be chaos.
That trailer looked like a movie. Like, the quality of it looked like a movie.
The other crazy thing is...
Called,
Angor. Andor, yeah. But the other crazy thing is, and I think it's some numbers here, Rings of Power is going to be the most expensive TV series ever made. $250 million Amazon paid for the rights to J.R. Tolkien's Second Age just for the rights.
Yeah.
And they're spending 58 million US per episode.
Oh my God.
Here's the crazy thing. There are no big name actors in it, which means that budget's just going towards world building and CGI and like everything else. Now, House of Dragons is coming at $150 million or $200 million for the 10 episode season, which makes it $20 million per episode, which is still huge, but only half of Lord of the Rings.
How could you spend that much money on?
Bro, I don't know how you spend 58 million on one episode and there's no big name actors. Like Game of Thrones was dropping like $2 million an actor.
Yeah.
Like, the top 5 were getting $2-3 million an episode.
We'll see.
All right, last one.
Okay.
Kicked in the nuts. F45 franchises are blindsided by head office turmoil.
Okay.
So F45 franchises have just been slammed. The fitness group in Australia will hold its first conference call with Australian franchises later this week after a disastrous earnings downgrade triggered the departure of its high-profile chief executive and nearly half the parent company's staff. So they're just getting slammed. Again, what a great thing to pull into a conversation. Oh, did you hear? F45, because a lot of people love F45. A lot of people hate it.
People go.
Or they hate it.
Yeah.
So it's a great one to just be like, did you hear F45? Oh, really?
Well, like half of the officers quit.
Yep, half the officers quit. Mark Wahlberg backed the company, was slashing its expansion plans, as well as the earnings and revenue forecast for the financial year. So just a lot of drama going on with
Mark
F45.
Wahlberg is
he was like one of the early investors. He like is a huge face
Have
of the
you
brand.
seen there's a Wahlburgers
Yeah, Wahlburgers.
in Circular Quay
Yeah.
now?
I walked past it, I saw that.
It looks kind of weird.
So there you go. Long episode. We needed to play catch up.
Yeah.
Make sure to tell your friends about this.
I don't know. There was some fun. There was some interesting stuff to talk about this week.
Yeah.
But should we give a shout out to Prime Video for bringing us the heat?
Big shout out to Prime Video. Very excited to see 13 Lives.
13 Lives. Yeah. We've got an exclusive preview link that we're going to be watching tonight for you suckers.
Yeah, before you plebs who have to go watch it when it comes out.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We got some guests coming up that I think everyone will be excited to see.
The podcast this is phase 1 is now over, I would say. Phase 2 is about to enter. We've got many guests coming up, big creators.
We've got an exciting announcement to make in the next week, I think.
Live shows coming up shortly, hopefully.
I've got a call today trying to book in the venue for the first live show.
Very exciting times for Byron and Pace. So thank you for listening. As usual, we love you all.
Thank you guys. Any reviews are most welcome. Any stories?
Submissions, yes.
Any stories or submissions are always welcome with open arms. And we'll see you next week.
Love you all. Bye.
Much love. Bye.